Hey everybody, welcome back to your free TV. It is Friday, March 27th, 2026. I'm so glad to be back with you here on the channel, TGIF. It's kind of a freaky Friday. I'll jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully, harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. And I'd also say protected in the full armor of God, in the faith that I have in Jesus Christ. So here we go. It is Friday. As I said, I think a bit of a freaky Friday. Everybody is just flipping out. We're seeing in CPAC, it's just kind of disintegrating that that the opposing teams there in a very, very low turnout there in Dallas. This is just an aside before I jump into the news. That things are just going off the hook, where everybody's kind of losing their minds about what's going on because everybody sees how critical and crucial these times are and how important it is that everything that's going on be done right. And yet nothing seems to be done right, except perhaps maybe the military operation in Iran, which I'll get into. But I also want to start by saying thank you. Thank you so much to everybody who supports You Are Free TV. Thank you so much to Joette, always so consistently supportive. Thank you so much. And everyone supporting monthly. So appreciate you. And I think I'm going to actually get to my sponsor here in the beginning of the channel this time, the video. This is c60evo.com/YAFTV. This is the incredible product that gets into your mitochondria, cleaning out the crud, basically connecting with your top hormones, your melatonin, and your glutathione to take all the crud out of your mitochondria. Great new studies coming out talking about how mitochondria is a light conducting system, that we are an electrical light conducting system, just coming out this week, talking about how important it is for your mitochondria to be clean to connect to basically the energy of what runs our universe that God created, which is light, and why the dimming of the sun is such an evil operation of the globalist Cartel Babylon. But this product is amazing. It fights inflammation. It just makes your day great because it gives you a better mood, better brain function, better focus, better sleep. But it also, for people dealing with degenerative diseases, it is fantastic for CNS problems, central nervous system problems, neurological problems, gets right into your brain, cleaning out your neurons. Just amazing. People buying it up for the big C and on their protocols there. It is just an incredible product. c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. And people who support the channel get 15% off with a different link and code sent to you. And also, I give away 2 bottles of the capsules, which I love. This is the olive oil. This is the MCT oil. Both work great depending on what you're focused on. MCT oil, people love it for the workouts because it works great with the keto diet and everything to do with inflammation with workouts. The olive oil is the most potent. You can get it in liquids or in capsules. And I give away 2 bottles by the grace of my sponsor every month to people who support the channel. It's an open giveaway that randomly selected, and it's very fantastic. So check that out, and thanks for supporting the channel and my sponsors who let me keep going. So, okay, we had to do the plug, which is so good to do, and let's get into the day. It's, as I said, Freaky Friday. Everyone is, really, there's, it's just like a meltdown going on out there, whether it is like the breakdown of kind of what Joe Kent put out as a massive division. And I'll just say it. I mean, it is a massive division, his resignation. And it's not that I dispute his claim that there is an Israeli massive influence and coup over the U.S. government. That's been going on for decades and decades and decades. And saying that this Iran war was solely started by the Israelis is just simply wrong. This is something that President Trump has been in in progress since President Trump got the USA out of the JCPOA. Right. This is the Obama and Cartel Babylon with Muslim Brotherhood and the bankster elite out of the city of London, creating what was the JCPOA for the plan to basically push off to the future, okay, the nuclear capabilities of Iran, but all the while easing sanctions and funding so much of what became the massive proliferation of Iran's capabilities, really through the IRGC, to be able to go into multiple countries with much more money to make sure the uranium enrichment programs would keep going, but just be supposedly more, more guarded and more observed. But as we know, this observance was very squirrely at best. And Trump has always been against it. In 2018, removing the USA from this agreement and saying this won't work, we need to actually stop this. And he had basically been saying this since way before he considered even running for office. So what we're seeing here now, yes, absolutely, Israel is a problem in our country. Yes, absolutely, the Islamic threat in our country is really massive. The major problem we have here on Freaky Friday, right before, we're 2 weeks, in a few days away from Easter, and all of this, timing is just so potent, as we have, of course, a massive kickoff tomorrow with huge No Kings rallies across the country, the biggest ever, supposedly, against President Trump, and just kicking off across the country. This could be major possibilities of FFs. And of course, we have that creepy and freaky traitor that is John Thune, the head of the Senate, trying to pass a bill, okay, that would fund DHS without ICE or Border Patrol. And that basically is the function of DHS, because after the Patriot Act and the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, it has really just been used against we the people. And so without ICE or Border Patrol funded, it's just a massive operation against we the people. And so we're seeing that that push through the Senate got already rejected by the House. We have Johnson trying to push, let's just fund the TSA because everybody must fly, and those airlines must get their money from the government. And so, yeah, there's that. And when the TSA is one of the most disturbing elements of DHS. And so, anyway, that's all going. That's part of the Freaky Friday. That is our criminal and feckless government. That is our Congress and our Senate unable to pass the SAVE Act, the Save America Act, unable to do recess appointments where the Senate just keeps logging in every night with a little, hit of the hammer down and stopping Trump from putting in his recess appointments as John Thune goes out to on a taxpayer-funded, jet for his 2-week fancy vacation. And so that's the Freaky Friday. We have our awful Congress and Senate. And so, of course, 202-224-3121 for the Senate if you want to complain, and 202-224-2321 if you want to tell Thune what you think of him. Because this is just awful. As the midterms come, it is disturbing. So, but anyway, let's get into more of the news and what's going on with Trump's plan here with what this Iran operation is all about. And it gets into going against, as I've been saying on this channel forever, and thank you, yes, I am back up after the hack attacks all week and all of that. Here I am. Hopefully this will go off okay. But basically what we're looking at is Trump today coming out, and this happened later in the day, where he met in Miami Beach at the Future Investment Initiative Institute, where he's meeting basically and mostly with all of these Middle Eastern huge money people. Okay, and no question that Trump has opted to dissociate from the European oligarch elites of the royals and the bankster elites out of there that have decimated their countries and their country's energy infrastructure, to go in with the Middle East and creating of the Abrahamic Accords. And basically what he had to say here, one thing I'll start out with, is that he said, by the way, I'm just saying Cuba's next. He literally just came out and said it. He said, Cuba's next. We're about to take down the regime of Cuba. And so we already know that's been coming. He came out blatantly and said it tonight at this conference in Miami Beach, Florida. And he basically said that the rise of the Middle East, free of Iran nuclear blackmail, is about to happen. Sovereign nations united in economic bilateral agreements are what is going to rule what happens in the Middle East. And this gets into Israel. It gets into not only this predominance of Israel, it is Israel taken down a notch of the takeover, okay, of their planned expansion. And that doesn't mean that it's still not awful what Israel is doing. It absolutely is. Look at Lebanon, look at the Christian suffering, look at what they've done to the Christians in the West Bank. All of it, it's disgusting. And as I said, we come up to Easter. This is a fight here. We're dealing with Israel coup, as Joe Kent says, and we're dealing with Islam coup. We've been dealing with the Muslim Brotherhood takeover brought in by Obama. We're dealing with the AIPAC takeover of our government. This all is deep state run out of the city of London. Okay, this is Pilgrim Society. This is the dialectic that they use. They decided to do this self-fulfilling prophecy of the Abrahamic religious war to basically pit everybody against each other and to destroy the United States of America, being the crown jewel of Christendom after all of this time, with the most incredible constitution and the most incredible republic in the world, offering the most freedoms and the most opportunities for people to realize what Christ intended with realize your free will, okay, and natural law and what it means, right? So outside of the Magna Carta is the U.S. Constitution, and where people really understand natural law, and that we respect each other, and that we respect each other's humanity, each other's godliness, and that we come to each other with, this is what I have to offer, and we come with let's build things, right? And so this is where we're at, as you know, the planned demolition and destruction of America has been going on for decades and decades. Trump is trying to basically say the Middle East should be the domain of the Arab countries, and of course Israel in there, that they as sovereign nations deal with everything going on there, but we're going to oversee it here in this board of peace, and in the Abrahamic Accords. We're going to oversee it because right now the U.S. is dominating in energy production across over and above everybody. And so why do we have $110 dollars of oil per barrel today? That is literally just controlled by the bankster elite Cartel Babylon markets, right? And you can cite the, the massive amounts of them, Jewish billionaires, absolutely. But there's multiple others besides. The Arabs making billions of dollars on this as well. And so all of this is problematic, but what Trump had to say was that the Middle East will be transformed. It's trying to get all of these nations into the Abrahamic Accords. And he was at this Miami meetup today, the Future Investment Initiative Institute, basically thanking Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, all of them for basically tolerating what has been going on with the hits on their countries with this Iran takedown. And we all know, they already know, and they're all involved. But basically, this is they're benefiting in the short term to what is going to be the USA's being free of the City of London control over the Straits of Hormuz, over the energy, okay, of the world. But specifically in the United States, the Rothschilds, banksters et al., out of the European banks and out of what we began way back when in the creation of the Rothschilds and their connections with the elites, controlling the U.S. Department of Energy, all of our energy grids, everything, all of our electricity plants, all of it, all of the communications, everything controlled out of the Rothschilds banks. And so it might seem, it's that's the Freaky Friday part of it. How is this all being, taken down? It's being taken down through this, standing up to Lloyd's of London, standing up to the City of London. And this is all happening as, of course, we're having now back channels where you're having Turkey, Egypt, Oman, and Pakistan right now in charge of the new Iran negotiations. And so let's jump in here as I just ranted for a while. Trump did also in this speech today also come out and say he wanted to test NATO. He said that he's always believed they're a paper tiger, that we're paying everything and they're doing nothing. And that basically he said this is a small potato situation. You wouldn't rise to the occasion to help the US when we pay for everything. And basically he said, I always knew that if a big one came, down the road, if a big one came, ever happened against the USA, that they wouldn't be there. And he cited Ruta, of course, of NATO, basically saying this is not our war, and him coming back again and saying Ukraine is not our war. And Zelensky's running around hair on fire. He's been running back to King Charles this week. He's run back to the UK Parliament, begging them for money that they don't have. Okay, they don't have the money. All right, that's why we're seeing that in the EU this week after Prime Minister of Belgium came out and said, hey, we need to recouple with Russia immediately to save our energy infrastructure because we are doomed. We're screwed. And Putin coming out and basically asking billionaires in Russia now, the oligarchs, he's saying, hey, I need you to stand up and fund the finishing of the Ukraine war. So dug in, okay, as Zelensky's losing steam and money and everything else. And what we're seeing here is that that in the EU, okay, after the Prime Minister of Belgium came out and said that, we have the EU now postponing its vote, its proposal to decouple and cancel energy from Russia that they would plan to do from 2027. And as I said in multiple videos now before this, that Putin had already said, hey, if you're going to cancel us and not going to buy our oil in LNG in 2027, then we're going to preempt it now. And so this is all happening behind the scenes. This is basically saying to the EU and to the UK and the Cartel Babylon elites of the globalism that want to have the slavery planet instead of sovereign nations and want a giant surveillance technocracy, that that if you if you keep on this train, we're stopping you. And so what Putin had said was that we're going to preempt, the end of you trying to, cut off from our oil. We're going to shut you off early. And so now the EU has postponed that proposal and basically removing it from the table. They all around the gaff. Okay, the EU, the bankster elite royals are completely shut off here. And that includes the Rothschild empire as it exists in the old school. It doesn't mean it's not, Larry Fink still carrying out their wishes. The whole Epstein empire, okay, him as the fall guy, but him as the face of it, doesn't mean it's still happening. Obviously, Israel, okay, and Israel's connections with China, and Israel just going to anywhere that they can get their money and power for control. We have Tucker Carlson putting out now a big expose documentary on that's called the Bibi Files, detailing all of Netanyahu's criminality. That coming out so great. And so all of this is interconnected and important to understand. And so Joe Kent coming out, and I'm not getting into what he's, is this an operation? Not in this video. Is it an operation on his part? Um, we look at Tulsi Gabbard, who went to Syria and talked to Assad. Remember, they didn't want her to be in the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, because she had sat down with Assad. And basically, said, "Tell me what's going on in your understanding." Who literally was against all of the regime change operations in Syria, who didn't believe in the chemical weapons baloney put out by Israel intelligence. All of this Israel intelligence, of course, behind all of these Iraq wars, blah blah blah, as Joe Kent says. However, Gabbard didn't buy any of it and wanted to get to the truth. Right now, she's the DNI. And whatever about Joe Kent. Okay, he did the as CIA connections and all of it, USAID, his wife, everything. That was the funding and the building out of ISIS to take down Syria. And then you get buyer's regret, right? You get regret down the road. And so I'm putting that aside, the Joe Kent thing. Okay, I know there's a big interview coming out with him with Harrison Smith on Monday. That will be interesting to watch, but that's not even the point. The point is that Trump is trying to have sovereign nations be in control again, outside of imperialist City of London run corruption, economy of sin, black book money made through, for instance, from way back when, the Iran Contra stuff that was largely involving the Epstein himself, but the Epstein, later Epstein, but basically that whole same cartel. And so Trump is saying, no, 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 you're all being brought to heel. We're going to be brought to heel by economic bilateral agreements. We're not going to do this black book, bribery, economy of sin style anymore. We're going to be doing this based on the economies that are in control of the region. The Arab nations will control, through bilateral agreements, what's going on there in the Middle East. The U.S. has massive energy production capable of doing it if we could just get all these people off our backs, right? And the threats and the constant coercion of the City of London trying to decimate our country in their own countries. And Trump coming out and saying, you've decimated your own countries with your green energy, you're shutting down the fossil fuels, your run to destroy the citizens of the EU, flood them with migrants of completely sub-Saharan Africans and Muslims to basically destroy your country. We have in Spain situations now where in Spain, and this is just, I'll just give you a warning here, just awful information, but for women that are being, raped or gang raped by Muslim migrants, they're now getting the option here, Canada style, to get assisted suicide. Okay, they won't get justice. They can't get justice through the courts, but they can kill themselves with the help of the government. And this is, the plan of satanic one world government overlords. Okay, of global Satanism that is Cartel Babylon. And this is what Trump is trying to disrupt and change and make into sovereign nations controlling the way the world works, between nations by their economic agreements. A wholly different approach, okay? And so as we keep watching this, let's get into more of it. Or, yeah, let's get into what Promethean Updates had to say again in the last day about this. This had to do with, of course, let me see, J.D. Vance being sent to negotiate in Pakistan. That's a huge thing. But Trump, of course, this 10-day pause for the 10-day, excuse me, the 10 oil tankers of oil coming out of Iran. This is all basically about buying time, where you're seeing Witkoff and Kushner taken off the scene to negotiate, and having J.D. Vance and others going into Pakistan, being hosted by the Prime Minister of Pakistan through back channels. And what Susan Kokinda of Promethean Updates is saying is that Trump is negotiating with Iran through Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, and Oman. And that's absolutely true. So basically, they're using trusted allies to the U.S., but also that the Iranian IRGC is still willing to talk to come into some sort of negotiation while keeping the EU, the UK out of it, NATO out of it, but also Israel to a certain extent here. This is basically Trump saying the Arabs should negotiate with the Arabs and give the USA options here. That's what we need to do if we're going to end basically the Iranian mullah regime. And this is the attempt to end the mullah regime. Okay, and the IRGC, since the JCPOA has, was just given those billions of dollars, given drone technology, given the time and the ability to grow the uranium build out of nuclear weapons. This was the Muslim Brotherhood, Rothschild's approach. The Council on Foreign Relations, they wanted Iran to have this clout, this terrorism threat, nuclear threat that was used, of course. We had 9/11. We have the infrastructure built in the USA of total surveillance based upon this. Trump is saying we're going to take it down. We're going to remove these threats that can no longer be the boogeyman that is controlling the USA. That's what's going on here. And people, I guess, just don't see that. They're saying don't start another war. We're in a war. We've been in a war. Okay. The Cartel Babylon, the non international cabal has been trying to destroy America, of course, for a century plus, and now we're trying to stop it. Trump is trying to end that war by taking down the Iran component of their control mechanism, whether it is the Iran-Contra situation, what happened with the total communization of South America and Central America with the CIA, right, and MI6 and Mossad. Basically, that's why he's hitting so hard with the Shield of the Americas, why he's hitting Iran, why Cuba is next. All of these pinpoints, all of these hubs, okay, that get into this. So when we had with what we had with the JPCOA is we had this situation um, of the expansion, the funding, the oligarchs there, the IRGC, building out missile capacity, building out missile launching systems, building out their capacity to develop and produce missiles and installations. Why Trump has always been against it is that he said this just looks like a giant way for them to just grow and grow militarily, and push out further the nuclear threat that will come later as the uranium is protected, the capacity for them to have it, plus the funding of the proxy Muslim Brotherhood groups, the Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, the exporting of terrorism, that growth into Venezuela, the CCP coupling with them, all of this growing threat with what is the globalist, communist, surveillance, slavery state infrastructure intranational. Okay, they have no nations. These are people that are oligarchs, that are multi-billionaires and trillionaires, wanting to take down the powerful countries of the world, certainly the West, certainly Europe, UK, so close, almost there, that it's frightening. And the USA being the crown jewel. And Trump is saying, okay, that's why we did Venezuela first. That's why we took out Maduro. That's why we're now controlling Venezuela, and we're about to control Cuba. And we're taking out these choke points. That's same with Panama. We're taking out these places where they use them for the assault on America. Iran, of course, now is the big one. It is huge, and it's 90 million people. And we're looking at about 10% at the top, but maybe more like 2 to 5% who are hardcore believers in the Shiite regime. And so basically, the IRGC, since the JCPOA, has been able to steal everything, all the resources from the Iranian people, stealing their farmland, stealing their water massively, using it all for production of weapons that they were selling to all of these regimes, including Russia, but also North Korea, also China, also the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah. This was all just an operation. And this Iran-Contra stuff was the touchstone of that back in the day, right? Through CIA, through MI6, and Mossad, and Epstein filters right in there as part of it. And so Trump is saying, no, it all has to be taken down if we're ever going to operate as civilized countries with sovereign rights and sovereignty on economic basis, instead of all this economy of sin running us. And so I know I'm kind of, rambling on about all of this, but I really think that as we're seeing the EU cave here, Belgium PM saying we have to recouple with Russia. We can't keep doing this. Whatever Ukraine, we need Russian oil and energy. When we're seeing it with now they're postponing the vote for the ban, the proposal for the ban on Russian energy, that their own destruction of their countries with this green plan has failed and faltered. Doesn't mean they're still not going for the natural asset corporations. We had Larry Fink, okay, big, whatever you want to call him, a BlackRock CEO, and also the head of the WEF. The WEF is trying to put out new AI-controlled credit cards, okay? They're trying through Visa, where your own AI operating system would be granted credit cards with all of your information and buy stuff, okay, without your permission, to basically dictate what you're allowed to buy and not to buy. Larry Fink, coming out and saying, we really want to share the wealth of the world if you would only tokenize all your assets, right? If you would tokenize all your assets, you could benefit from a little green field you had in your backyard or a few trees. You could, all of those living things would be censored and with sensors on them and monetized, and you could gain access to that global wealth if we could just monetize every single living thing on Earth, and inert objects, whether you believe they're alive or not, rocks, blades of grass. All of this could be monetized if you would just allow us to do that. We could share the wealth of the world with you. And we know that's baloney and crap. And so it's a huge fight, okay? The Iran part is to take down this massive Cartel Babylon, huge infrastructure site that has been Iran since since the Muslim Brotherhood got launched by the Pilgrim Society, by the combination of really it gets down into the Masons, Cairo, the high up individuals from all these countries that got together and said, how can we steal everything? And so we're looking at over, of course, 100 years of the installation of the takeover of Persia and the stealing of the resources, the creation of imperialist regimes out of City of London in the UK, the British Empire. And this is the takedown of the empire, okay, of that form. And what we're faced with is what's going to be the new form, right? But do we want sovereign nations instead? Yes, we do, absolutely. And because the UK and the EU have failed their people so intensely, and also stolen everything from us, plus used us as giant cash cows and military might in the killing of U.S. Soldiers and people, it doesn't mean that you don't fight a war. Okay, this war has been ongoing, and people are very disturbed about the fact that the USA and the soldiers who sign up to be part of the US military to go and do operations to defend the USA and to fight these wars, and a lot of them signing up under Trump, that this is the point, and this war is important. And I am anti-war. I don't want any wars, but the war is ongoing. And we have to understand that the war is ongoing. If we just, just get, cognitive disruption, and we want to be like, no, 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 we're peaceniks, and we don't believe in war. I don't believe in war. The war is on. We are hanging by our threads, and Trump is trying to dismantle this massive infrastructure, okay, that is the Iran control hub. And so I am sticking with it, as it's going now, because without getting rid of this Iran control hub, we won't be able to disrupt the ongoing assault on America's energy infrastructure and the American energy dominance. That might be the one thing that could control the economy, that could actually revive the economy here and the economic recovery. And people say, well, no, it's the opposite. It is, Trump's destroying the recovery. No, no, no. This is happening because it is one of the only ways to actually guarantee the recovery of the economy, because it is being leveraged every which way. We're seeing Trump coming out and saying to the EU, as Putin is coming on the other side saying, hey, cut off us in 2027. We're going to cut you off now. Trump is saying, hey, if you don't go along with the trade deals that are super fair for Europe, as much as everybody here on fire, I have to pay extra for my champagne or my special cheese, that basically, no, Trump is saying, hey, if you keep the trade deals, or we're going to back off on your LNG delivery. This is what needs to happen. It's called evening the playing field, the trade field. And the U.S. has been upside down, not even upside down, just drowning underwater with trade ever since the killing of McKinley. There is zero, zero, zero. That the USA has just been like, take what you want, take what you want. We never tariff you anymore. Instead, we steal all the taxpayers' money from them instead. And that's what's been happening. And they do it in Europe too. They steal all the taxpayer money out of the people of Europe as well. So what are we going to do about it, right, is the situation. And so I might leave it there. There's always so much more to say. Sorry, this was definitely squirrely today. It's kind of a Freaky Friday. People are really hair on fire. But I wanted to give you my opinions and my understanding that this isn't going to be entirely unconfusing. It is confusing, and it is this kind of fog of war, but this is the war we've been in, and people were so clear before, okay, or the MAGA base or America First, whatever you want to call it, um, always knowing for the last whatever 10 years that Trump had, these major Israel connections. But now it is just like, jump off the train, run, it is kind of a suicidal, I don't know, self-sabotage, should I say, that people think that they can just flee, okay, from what is happening. and we can't. This is the thing that we've all been dealing with for 10 years. And this is the fight that we've all been wishing for, is the end of energy control, okay, by the Cartel Babylon is the largest thing that controls everything in the world. And so Trump is doing this to try to correct that. And so I just ask everybody to try to keep your head straight while, Freaky Friday continues. It is going to continue to be confusing. And I'm sorry I couldn't explain this more clearly tonight, but I hope I gave you some tidbits and insight that might help to understand that without taking down the control mechanisms of what is the City of London's control over Iran, the use of it as the proxy state for terror, for sure, reaching into Venezuela, the Iran-Contra stuff, the creation of, with the CIA, MI6, Mossad, of our massive funding of the deep state in America. All of this is what's at play here. And so let's pray for President Trump and for the negotiations going forward in Pakistan and beyond, that there will be God's guidance here, that God will absolutely lead Trump in these negotiations going forward for the right way. It's funny because what Trump had to say, his first thing that he said when he came out today in Miami Beach at this conference, he said, the thing with me is I end wars before I even start them. Okay, that was his opening to this speech today. And basically saying, I have the outcome already planned, what we're going for here. And so I don't like to just say, trust the plan. I'm just saying that there is their trajectory, what was already being, what's meant to happen here is already decided. And that people who are saying they have no idea what he's doing, he's crazy, and I love this. He's too old. He's too old. I mean, it's so funny. New studies just came out the other day, and it's really sad about Gen Z. Um, Cognitive abilities, social skills, vocabulary, writing, etc. Really not making the mark. That people's abilities to cognitively think in the social media age are really, really screwed up, destroyed. That was the plan. That was the why they created it in the first place, to dumb people down, but also to really disrupt God's neural mechanisms, shall we say, our abilities to normally be able to discuss with one another, to what we used to call debate or fight. I come from a place where we would argue, and it wasn't bad, it was good. Argue, debate, get your point across, and have the mental capacity to do so. And so I think that's what we really need to be doing here. And it was funny at CPAC to see, in the parts I got to watch today, of kind of a disintegration where people have really opposing opinions there, and that they're not able to control the narrative anymore. That people are really outspoken from their own minds, and I love to see it. I think it's fantastic. So yeah, let's stay Copus Mentis. Let's really hear what Trump said, that he didn't get into this without an outcome that he absolutely has in his designs, and that the whole reason we want him here is to end the 1776, to end the American Revolution against the tyranny of the imperialist City of London, okay, and to oust and to destroy the Pilgrim Society in the USA. And it is a big fight. It is very, very, it's very, very intense. It goes on. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you found this valuable. I know it is maybe a little bit heady, and everybody always wants more like details, details, details. But you need to understand strategy, and you need to understand history to understand where things are going. That we have to destroy the old paradigm of what is, you can, whatever you want to call it, the Epstein elite the economy of sin, Cartel Babylon, the bankster Rothschild paradigm with the royals and trillionaires, that is being broken down and reformed. And our prayers are very needed, for what's coming forward. But this is not something that isn't massively war gamed and thought out. Trump is not going for just his riches going forward, and we can't even get into everything to do with secret space technology, everything that's around the edges here, as we're seeing all these people being gathered up and disappeared and probably brought into underground bunkers for other large things that are coming to do with more intense technology. Next week I'll get into that, but I want you to stay heartened, okay, as we come towards Easter, because for myself, God has me, okay? Jesus Christ is my Savior, and absolutely, I am buckled in for the ride. And I know that this weekend it is so important that you get with your family and you get off devices and you really connect with the people who love you, because this is more important than anything. That's where the real energy is in your heart, your body, your spirit, your love, your mind, that you get with the people who need your love, need your attention, your communities, and of course your local fights. That's where it all happens. It's amazing how people think that Trump is the Superman that can do everything. No, but then they complain he's too old, he's too this, he's whatever. Can't stand when he just talks about wanting to redesign the Kennedy Center, all this crazy stuff. It's like, get with your own self, take care of your own house, right? Your own family and your own communities, and then complain about what Trump is doing. But if you're not doing those things in your own communities and families and house, if you're not fixing up what's falling down in your own house, don't complain about Trump, right? Okay, so thanks so much for watching. If you found something valuable in this video, it would be great to get your support. We're a shoestring here on this channel, and I so appreciate you. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Yeah, do everything that celebrates life, celebrates God, and just grounds you into your connection to God, and listen for the messages of what you need to do moving forward, because God will always tell you your next right action, your next thing to do. So I'm going to leave it there. Happy Friday. You are free, and I'll see you on Monday.